Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala khatimin nabiyyin nabiyana Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa ashabi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi zidni ilma. Rabbi zidni ilma. Rabbi zidni ilma. Okay, inshallah. Very quickly we'll recap what we learned in the last session and then inshallah continue our today's lesson. Last time we were doing ayat number 2. Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. In which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Wal yawmil maw'ud. And by the promised day, that is the day of resurrection. Now, threats of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first threat is Allah's armies will destroy you if you persist in oppression. That is ayat number 1. Yeah, the second threat is the promised day. That is ayat number 2, which is even more scary. The oath should have a response. Yeah, for example, we say, I swear, and then we'll say something will happen. The response has not been mentioned since sometimes the response is known without you having to mention the response to the oath. Scholars says that the response to first ayah, yeah, that is ayat number 1, is through the second oath. That is the response to the oath is the promised day will happen. Then in ayat number 3, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Wa shahidun wa mashhood, and by the witness and by that which has been witnessed. Shahidun wa mashhood. Both nouns are undefined. Yeah, tanween at the end of the words. Yeah, because there is a tanween, it means it is open. Yeah, so that they can imply generality. Yeah, that is, it allows a lot of things to be witnesses and witnessed. All the testimonies and evidences of the day of judgment are thereby alluded to, which are found in every nook and corner of the world, on the condition that a person possesses keen eyes and a discerning, wise heart. Then he will be able to see them. For example, every object in this world, big or small, bears evidence to the power, wisdom, mercy, destiny, and other attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The obvious consequence of these attributes, as is explained by the Quran Majid, is that this world should not just continue the way it is, nor end accidentally. In fact, it is essential that a day comes in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala discriminate between the pious and the impious. So this is the day when those who spend their lives according to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will receive reward, and others who have spent their lives without having any sense of accountability will be punished. So every shahid and mashhud is thereby alluding to the coming of the day of judgment. So shahid, the witness, and mashhud, what is witness? These two words come with the word, shahida yashhadu. That's from the verb shahida yashhadu, and the masdar is shahadatun, or we say shahada for general. Shahada is to bear witness, also to be present. That is hadir, to bear the witness. We have to look from your eyes. Yeah, and that is called shahada. So let's take a few examples. We discussed last time about the day of resurrection. Yeah, the day of resurrection. So we are going to be the shahid, and all the incidents that is going to happen. So they will be mashhud, and the other way around also. Yeah, ruins of old nations. When you go and see them, or they themselves, those ruins of the nations. So they are the shahid, and mashhud is the events that happened on those lands. Or when you go there, you are the shahid, and those ruins are the mashhur. Allah Himself as the witness. So Allah has mentioned in the Quran Majid that wakafa billahi shahida. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is enough. Allah doesn't need anyone. Our deeds, they are the shahid, and what we do, and we know that is we are the mashhud. The messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the witness. And we said that, he is going to witness, two things. One for the Ummah, and one against some of the people in the Ummah. Time is a witness. So we took the example of, the fleeting time, that is wal asr. Our bodies are witness. So on the day of judgment, so whatever, the bad deeds or good deeds we have done, our body parts, they will speak. They will directly speak on the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they directly speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah is a witness to the completion of the conveyance of the message of His final messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we discuss in detail about this. The last sermons of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the land of Arafah. So on the day of Arafah, he conveyed the message and asked the people 3 times. So when they all agreed what he said, then he said, Allahumma shahad, Allahumma shahad, Allahumma shahad. Allah, you are the witness. So I have delivered. So now you are the witness. Okay. So inshallah, we'll start today from this slide onwards. The oaths should have a response called Jawabul Khasam. Yeah, I swear something will happen. Yeah. Now, once again, just going back to the last session and today's session, let us take one simple example, and then we'll continue. Now, if a child is going out and it is very cold, and the parents try to tell him, then they said that I swear, if you go, when you come back, you'll be ill. You're feeling ill because it's very cold outside. Yeah, that's one type of response, that you have clearly explained that what is the consequence of not doing something. If you take same thing, example, when the father says that you are going without a sweater, without a jacket, I swear, that's enough. That means that child knows what is going to happen. Yeah, you don't need to explain in details. If you don't do your homework, I swear, that means he knows what is going to happen. So these are the two types of responses. One, you have to clearly explain, and sometimes if the listener knows what is the consequence, then you don't need to mention. You have to just tell them once and just say half, I swear, and they know that what that means. But sometimes the response is known without you having to mention the response to the oath. Yeah, so this is what I explained. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using exactly the same tactics. Sometimes in the Quran Majid, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he swears and then he explains. Yeah. So what is going to happen and what is this, something Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in response, Jawabul Qasam, Allah will clearly mention that. Sometimes Allah doesn't mention. Allah just said, I swear. Then everyone knows. Those who are listening, they know if they don't follow, if they don't do it, what is going to be the consequence. Because the reminder of Qiyamah, the day of judgment, is not just once mentioned in the Quran, it's mentioned hundreds of times, directly and indirectly. So therefore, they all know that what is going to come. Yeah, wal yawmil maw'ud, what is going to come. Because maw'ud means it is going to come. Yeah, this is the promised from the word wada. We use the same word in Urdu language also. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is promising a day, the day will come. Islahi Sahab. So he says the response to the oath here has been replaced with ayat number 4 onwards, which remind and admonish those who are rejecting the day of judgment. Now, this style is adapted at places where the response of the oath is so obvious that a person's mind comprehends it even if it is not mentioned. This creates brevity in the discourse as the whole response of the oath can be regarded to have been suppressed since the context strongly occasions it. Because the whole theme of the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the day of the judgment. What is going to happen to good people, what is going to happen to bad people. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very clearly mentioning and in very simple way. These, if you look at these ayats, they're very, very small ayats. There's not big discussions. We'll see that inshallah. So here, if the response of the oath is unveiled in the light of the oath sown, it will be something to the effect. The day of judgment is certain to come. Nothing is beyond the control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day. Everyone will witness the results of their deeds. It's very clear. Yeah, it's crystal clear. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that on the day of judgment, everything, all your deeds, it's not just the deeds, limited to deeds, also your intentions in your heart. People can see your deeds, they can't see your intentions in the heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can see both. Allah can see our deeds, good and bad deeds, and our intentions. If our intentions are right and the deeds are right, then there's a lot of benefit for us. There's a lot of rewards for us waiting for us. But if both the intentions and the deeds are wrong, or one of the thing is wrong, then people will not get any benefit. They'll be punished for that. So some says the response to the first oath, that is ayah 1, is through the second ayah, that is promised day, day of judgment. Some said the response is ayat number 4. May the companions of the ditch be destroyed. So we'll come to that inshallah. We'll see who are the people of the ditch, inshallah. Okay, now we are coming to ayat number 4. Now in this ayat number 4, I have done a lot of explanation to this. Who are the Ashabul Ukhdud, and there are some stories. This is the story time. So please pay attention and listen to the stories, inshallah. Khutila Ashabul Ukhdud. Cursed were the companions, or the owners of the trench. Perish or accursed be the companions of the ditch. Now, who are these companions of the ditch mentioned in the ayah? This is very important. So, Quran and Majid, it's if you really look at the whole Quran and Majid, there are 6,600 and some ayahs, and in many places there's not of details available. So where do we get the details? We get the details from the Sunnah of our beloved Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has given the background to many ayats. Yeah. And then the Sahaba who have heard from Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, so they have explained. This is Tafseer. Yeah. So first, the Quran itself is a Tafseer, Tafseer bil Quran, and Tafseer bil Sunnah. Yeah, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Somebody has asked, one of the Sahaba companions have asked the question. So Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has explained it. And many a times the Sahaba, So they have heard from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or other Sahaba, so they will give their explanation. And then the next level is from the scholars of Islam. So how they have understood, what they have understood, where is the evidence, how did they collect the evidence. So the whole thing is the tafsir. Yeah. So using this tafsir, still it is theory. Still all the, whatever we have collected as tafsir is still a theory. Now we have to put that theory into practice. So how do we do that? We look at the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and our Sahaba radiallahu anhum. So then we'll see, oh, this is how they implemented in their situation. So we have to learn how to implement in our situation today. Yeah. So this is the whole concept. To understand, we'll have to go back into the history of Arabs about 100 years before the birth of our messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yeah. So this, all this Ashabul Ukhdud, the story. So we have to go back into the history around 100 years before the birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay. So if you can see the map, yeah. So this is an old map. Yeah, this is not new map, but this is very old map. So in the old map, you can see here the names are different. Yeah, you see here the present day, the Saudi Arabia, they have got different names. Yeah, you can see here Lahmid, Kinda, Hijaz, Yemen, Himyar, Oman, all this. Yeah, and also if you look at the map, there is, Eastern Africa. Yeah, so you can see here Aksum, Aludia. So there are different kingdoms. Yeah, so now look at this. Where I have put the mark C, it's all dominated by Christians or the kingdoms were Christian kingdoms. Yeah, like for example, here you can see here, the Turkey, the present day Turkey, the whole region of Syria, it's all Christian. And if you look at the Africa, so the Africa, the eastern part of Africa up to nearly, southern part of Africa, it's all Christian dominated. They all had Christian kingdoms because this is coming from the Eastern Roman Empire. Yeah. So they had two Roman empires. Christianity was divided into two Roman empires. Western, that was in Italy, in Rome, and Eastern, that was, somewhere in the Turkey region. Yeah. So Turkey, Syria, it's all Christian kingdoms. You were there. And when you look at on the right hand side, this is Sassanid Persian Empire. Yeah. So they are all the fire worshippers. Yeah. So this is the present day, you can say Jordan and Iraq, Iran. It's all, that's a big kingdom. Yeah. That was huge. Sassanid Persian Empire, it was a huge kingdom. And also it is dominating in some other parts also. Now, where I have put the next mark, which is Z, is Zoroastrians. Yeah, these are the fire worshippers. You see here, yeah, the Sassanid Persian Empire, the whole, empire was Zoroastrians. Yeah, so they are the fire worshippers. They are also in Oman and Yemen. Yeah, Yemen was also dominated by them, and Himyar and Aksum also. There was some. Yeah, and where I have put, P, this is for pagans. Yeah. So these people, they had no religion. They used to worship, many idols. So these are, the present day, mostly the present day Saudi Arabia. You see here, it's all paganism. It's like present day Saudi Arabia, around 95%, 90 to 95%, they were pagan Arabs. Okay, so this is the background. You have to remember this background, yeah, to understand the story. What happened? Who are the people of the teachers? What did they do? Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is cursing them? This is very important to understand this map. Okay, and there were some small patches where in Hijaz there are some Jews also. Judaism is also there. Yeah, Jews were also there. Okay, so around 400 Christian era, around 400 or 420, Christian era. So that time you can see here the word Himyar here is very dark green, and Himyarites allies the green, and nominal sphere of influence light green, and Himyarites rivals in italics. Okay, so this was the political situation at that time. Now, let's go to the story of Zunawas and Ashabul Ukhdud. This story has many sources. The first source is coming from a Sahabi called Suhaib Rumi radiallahu anhu. He reported from Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying that his name was Tuba Asad al-Karib, had a magician. We'll see the story inshallah. Yeah. The second story is coming from Ali radiallahu anhu. So he says that the king Zunawas drank wine and committed adultery with his sister. That's another story. The third one is coming from Ibn Hisham and other Islamic historians. They say as follows. The father of Zunawas, king of Himyar, went to Yathrib. Yathrib is the present day Medina. Once, and the story continues. And the fourth relates to Najran, which has been related by Ibn Hisham, Tabari, and Ibn Khaldun, etc. Many scholars. Okay, let's go to story number one. One of these stories that has been reported by Suhaib Rumi radiallahu anhu from Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying about the last Himyarite king, Tuba Asad Abu Karib, who ruled Yemen from 390 to 420 Christian era. Now, this king, he had a magician, in his court, who was becoming old and requested the king to appoint a boy who should learn magic from him. This was a common tradition. Even now, in some countries, they have a what do you call the state magician or a court magician, and these magicians are very powerful. They have got a lot of influence. Yeah, even today they have got a lot of influence, and the kings, the prime ministers, the chief ministers, so they will call them and they said that, look, I'm going to do this project or I'm going to war. What do you think? What will happen? And then based on what they say that you are going to win or you are going to lose, the project will not continue. So they make the plan or decision. Yeah. So these magicians. So he had one magician and he was, fairly old person. And he said that, look, I'm going to die anytime. If you give me a, smart young boy, then I'll teach everything to him, transfer my knowledge to him, and then he's going to be your asset for the future. And he's going to be your astrologer or magician in the future. So accordingly, the king appointed a boy. But the boy, while going to the magician's place, on the way, he also started visiting a monk who was a follower of Isa alayhi salam. He was a true believer. Now, what happened? This boy, he used to go past a church or, it's the place like a convent. So this man, he used to sit outside, a monk, he used to sit outside, and this boy used to go past and he used to call the boy and he used to give him some, fruit or, some kind of things he used to give him. And then the boy became very friendly with the monk and he started talking to the monk every day. While going or coming back, he used to meet the monk. Being influenced by the monk's teaching, the boy turned into a believer. Yeah, so he became a Christian. So much so that with the monk's training, the boy acquired miraculous powers. The story of the beast, I'll tell you in a minute. Yeah. So what happened? The boy, he was still going to, the magician, but he was more influenced by the monk. And he started really, really working hard on, the Christianity. And then finally he acquired some powers, through this monk. And this is, God's given powers. Yeah. So he was blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because he was a true believer. Before, Islam came or Muslims came through Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there were other Muslims also in the past. Every follower of every prophet of Allah, they were Muslims. So therefore, they are the true believers. So he became a true believer. Then the story goes like this. The boy, near the palace or somewhere, one big beast came. Yeah. And, nobody could do anything and they're all scared and they're all waiting, what is going to happen. So the boy came in the middle of the road and took a stone and he said, Bismillah, and threw at the beast and the beast died. instantly the beast died. And when they saw this, they were all very impressed with this boy. So he also started treating blind and cure the lepers. Yeah, like Isa alayhi salam. So he also got some powers and he used to do that. So when the king came to know that the boy had believed in one God, he first killed the monk and then wanted to kill the boy, but no instrument and no device had any effect on the boy. So the story goes like this. There are 3 or 4 incidents which has been mentioned. This story is very long. That the king called his soldiers and they said that, okay, throw this boy from the cliff. So a group of soldiers, so they took the boy on top of the cliff and then they tried to throw that, but there was a big wind came and the boy was saved and all the other soldiers, they fell from the cliff and they all died. And the story went back to the king and king was not happy. So this time he sent more soldiers and he said that tie a stone to his legs and throw him in the water, yeah, in the river. So they did that. Once again, miraculously the boy escaped and all the soldiers died. Now the king was very worried. So what is going to happen? And then they said, okay, hang him to the tree in front of people. So once again, they did that, and the tree fell down, and the soldiers died, and the boy again he was escaped unhurt. So the king was really really frustrated because if he cannot kill the small boy, what kind of king is he? How is he going to win the wars? So this was like a pride of the king. It was hurt. So at last the boy said to the king. So the boy could see the frustration and he said to the king, if you are bent upon killing me, shoot an arrow at me with the word Bismi Rabbil Ghulam. Now, Ghulam means a child also. Yeah, Ghulam is a child also. In the name of this boy's Lord, in front of the assembled people, and I shall die. And that was a condition. So he said, first you have to assemble the whole city. All the people should gather and they should witness in front of everyone. You take a bow and arrow and you shoot me and say that Bismi Rabbil Ghulam, in the name of the boy's Lord. So finally the king agreed because he wanted to kill the boy at any cost. But what happened? The king did as he was told and the boy died. Thereupon the people cried out that they affirm the faith in the Lord of the boy. So the courtiers told the king that the same precisely had happened, which he wanted to avoid, that is, belief in the true faith of the boy. So all of them, they became Christians. So the people then forsook the king's religion and adopted the boy's religion. At this, the king was filled with rage. Consequently, he got pits dug out along the roads, got them filled with the fire, and ordered all those who refused to renounce the new faith to be thrown into the fire. So this is one story. So this is reported by many of the ulemas. So they have reported in their books. Okay. Story number 2. Which story is true? Allah knows best. But there are some realities and there are some connections between these stories. The second story has been reported from Ali radiallahu anhu, who said Zunawas was the last Himerite king of Yemen, who was a polytheist or a Zoroastrian, who ordered and killed around 20,000 Christians in Najran, yeah, around 523 Christian era. King Zunawas got drunk and committed adultery with his sister, resulting in an illicit relationship. When the secret became known, the king got the announcement made that the god had permitted the marriage with his sister. So when the people refused to believe in it, he started coercing them into accepting but different kinds of punishments. So much so that he began to cast them into the pits of fire, every such person who refused to concede it. So this is reported by Ibn Jarir. The third story has been related by Ibn Abbas, radiallahu anhuma, probably based on the Israelites tradition, saying that the people of Babylon, yeah, present day Iraq, had compelled the children of Israel to give up the religion of the Prophet Musa alayhi salam, so much so that they cast into pits of fire all those who refused to obey. Yeah, so this is reported by Ahad bin Humayd. So these are all the stories, yeah. So which is coming, from chest to chest, person to person. So therefore, Allah knows best which story is finally story number 4 related to Najran. Yeah, Najran, present day it is in Saudi Arabia. It's a border with Yemen, which has been related by Ibn Hisham, Tabari, and Ibn Khaldun, by the author of Mujamal Buldan and other Islamic historians. The Himyarite king, yeah, Tuba Abu Karib Asad. So he ruled between 390 and 420, around 30 years he ruled, and is believed to have converted to Judaism, followed by a military expedition into northern Arabia in an effort to eliminate Byzantine Christians' influence. So his people too had followed the suit. So the Byzantine emperor had long eyed the Arabian Peninsula and sought to control the lucrative spice trade and route to India. This is the political. Yeah. So this story has got the political angle also. So the Byzantines hoped to establish a control by converting the inhabitants to Christianity. Some progress has been made in northern Arabia, but with little success in Himyar region. Abu Karib's forces reached Yathrib, that is Medina, and meeting no resistance, they passed through the city, leaving the king's son behind as governor. Abu Kariba soon received the news that the people of Yathrib had killed his son, so he turned back in order to take revenge on the city. After cutting down the date palm trees from which the inhabitants derived their main income, he laid siege to the city. The Jews of Yathrib fought side by side with their pagan neighbors. So during the siege, Abu Kariba he fell severely ill. Two Jewish scholars in Yathrib, Kab and Asad by name, called on the king in his camp and used their knowledge to medicine to restore his health. While attending the king, they pleaded with him to lift the siege and make peace. So the sages appeal is said to have persuaded Abu Karib. He called off his attack and also embraced Judaism along with his entire army. At his insistence, the two Jewish scholars accompanied him, the Himyarite king, back to his capital, where he demanded that all his people convert to Judaism. Initially, there was great resistance, but after an ordeal had justified the king's demand and confirmed the truth of the Jewish faith. Many Himyarites embraced Judaism. Some historians argue that the conversion were not due to political motivation, but the Judaism by itself philosophical, simplistic, and austere nature, and was attractive to the nature of the Semitic people. So his grandson or son Zunuwas succeeded him, and he attacked Najran, which was a stronghold of the Christians in southern Arabia, so as to eliminate Christianity and make the people accept Judaism. So Ibn Hisham says that these people were the followers of the gospel of Prophet Isa alayhi salam in Najran. So he invited the people to Judaism, but they refused to obey. Thereupon, he caused a large number of people to be burned in the ditches of fire and slew many others with the sword until he had killed nearly 20,000 of them. So this story continues in the background of Surah Al Fil about Abraha who punished Zunawas and his army. So actually this is one part, the background part to Surah Al Fil. In Surah Al Fil, we discuss in the background how Abraha was appointed. He was the governor. So he came from Ethiopia, that region, Eastern African region, and he was appointed by the Eastern Roman Christianity, in Turkey area. So they appointed him and he became the governor. He, along with another governor, they came and they killed Zunavas and all his, army. And then they started ruling from 523 Christian era until Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born. And that's the time the Abraha and his military, so they wanted to capture Kaaba. They wanted to destroy the Kaaba, and they built a church. It's called Al Khulais in Yemen, and they wanted to make that as the route. From that route, they wanted to take all, the spices and all these things. So they wanted to take it to the Christian kingdom. So that was the second part. So if you put these two together, you will understand the political situation, the religious, nature they had, and what happened, all this incident, it's like a one full story. Yeah, one full story until Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born. Okay. So now this is the present day. So there we are. You can see here. So this is the Yemen. Yeah. And you see here there is Christian kingdom. From here, Abraha and his army, along with another governor. So they came to Yemen and they killed Zunawaz and his team, all his military. And then they were doing very well because they built the Marib Dam. You know, the Marib Dam was there from the time of, uh, you know, uh, from Sulaiman alayhi salam. Yeah, and that time, so Marib Dam was really, really good place. This Yemen was very good. They had a lot of money, lot of, their lives were very good. And then it was destroyed. Then when Abraha came, so he rebuilt the dam, and then once again, Yemen was flourishing because they had, if you see here, Yemen directly with Kerala, you can see here they had a trade route from Arabian Sea. And from here, so they used to take everything, all the incense, the spices, and they used to take it to the Christian kingdom up to the Turkey, present day Turkey. And they used to take it to Misr, Egypt, Lebanon, all these areas. So they could go from the land route because the sea route, even though it was easy, but at this junction, where you see here, yeah, it was really, really, the sea was very harsh. So they could not, take. And also, like present day, we have got this, here, they have dug, a sort of canal, and that was not there at that time. And lots of people died here. So they were scared to go via this Red Sea. So therefore, they wanted to use the land route, and this is the political situation. So it's a culmination of both. And Abraha, what he wanted to do, he wanted to make the whole of this Arabian Peninsula into Christian kingdom. And then he wanted to become the emperor of this region, the Arabian Peninsula. He wanted to become the emperor. So that's why he made an expedition to destroy Kaaba and he went with the elephants. Okay, so that's the story. Okay. So I put a couple of pictures just to show you, from the historical background, ruins of Ukhdud. These are some of the pictures. Yeah, I have taken from the internet. Yeah, and parts of the outer wall of the Ukhdud. Okay, so but this, Allah, this may not be true. Whatever it is, it says pieces of bones remaining in the mud and ash walls. So I don't think it will be there anyway. Okay, so that's the story. And now let's understand these Ashabul Ukhdud. What did they do or did? So they are seeking, the curse from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in ayat number 4, Khutila Ashabul Ukhdud, cursed were the companions, the owners of the trench or did. Annari Zatil Wuhud, so containing the fire full of fuel. So let's understand these two ayats together because they are interconnected. First, let's take ayat number 4. As I told you, these are all small ayats. Yeah. Khutila ashabul ukhdud. Destroyed were the owners of the trench. Now, the first word, khutila. Khutila is a passive perfect word. Fail madin mabni lil majhuli. Now, when we say lil majhul, yeah, so there are two types of words, verbs, malum and majhul. Malum means we know the doer. Yeah, in a verb, there is verb. Yeah, we have the verb that is fail, file, and maful. These are the three parts to jumla failure. So when we say khatala, that means we know the killer. This is in third person. Yeah, that is malum. Khutila means we don't know who is the killer, even though we know that, from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from the history we know who are the killers, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not mentioning here. Yeah, because this is like a mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you have to investigate. If it is says khutila or destroyed by who is the doer? Then in that case you will not see a doer directly. You see here that is sahibul fail. Yeah, so khutila is destroyed were fail madin mabni lil majhul. Ashab, the owners. Yeah, ashabul udud. This is mudaf also. Yeah, mudaf and mudafun ilahi. So the owners of the trench is marfu and is majrur. Okay, khutila ashabul udud. Curse were the companions, owners of the trench. Now, having grabbed our attention to the oaths, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then refers to the people of the pit. Cursed were the companions of the trench containing the fire full of fuel. Now, please remember here, I have told you these four stories. Yeah. And one of these stories might be true and all may be true. We don't know. Allah knows best. But whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has talked about a story, or explain a story. There are many stories in the Quran Majid. There are many stories in the Quran Majid. No, this story is not like a children's story, because many of these biblical stories, so they come in the children's, Bible. Yeah. But ours is not like that. Of these stories, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, there is a moral, there is a lesson, there's a ibra. We have to understand why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling this story and how far Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has gone. In many stories, the details are not there. Only the brief, like for example, if you read the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, everything is not there. The name of the Aziz is not there. His wife's name is not there. There are many things which are missing. His brothers' names are not there. So therefore, we have to understand the concept of this story, the moral of the story, and what we can get out of the story for our today's life. This is very important. Okay. And sometimes when the details are not there, we have to limit ourselves or control ourselves for learning how much we can learn. We can go and investigate from the right sources, for example, from the ahadith and from the Sahaba, what they have said from the Riwaya, and from authentic scholars, and stop there. We don't need to take the credit or gold medal to say that I have found this. You don't need to, because you are wasting your time. Rather, important thing is you have to implement the moral from the story into our present day life. That is more important. The followers of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam are not the first to be oppressed, ridiculed, or killed. The followers of every prophet of Allah were oppressed, ridiculed, and killed. So this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell to believers, that you are not the first people to be killed. You are not the first people to be ridiculed or oppressed. Even people before you, all the followers of every prophet of Allah, they had to go through this. This is a test. Yeah, this is a test. In another place, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, like, for gold, if you want to really test the gold, you have to boil it, heat it at a very elevated temperature. Then the dirt, everything will come on surface and that will be brushed off. Then it will become pure gold. It is like that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala testing the believers is very severe. Therefore, be careful. If you really want to become a believer, then you have to prepare for this test also. How the test, your test is different from my test is different from somebody else. So Allah knows best how to test you and me and every believer. Qutila, he was killed, in past tense, passive voice. Yeah, it's also occurs in Arab culture. In old Arab culture, so they used to say that, Qutila fulan. That means I hope so and so person is killed or destroyed. This is like giving a curse. Yeah. I hope, he get destroyed. I hope he'll, go burn in hell, whatever, some kind of curse. And the same word is used, Qutila fulan. Ukhdud means a pit or a ditch or a cavity. This was a very large rectangular shaped ditch dug in the ground. Ashab, the plural of sahib. Sahib means companion.
Yeah.
It also means closeness or affiliation. So, when they committed the crime of mass genocide, they came to be known as companions of the ditch. That is, someone who is always with the ditch of fire. So we'll see that what exactly that means. And what is the ditch of the fire that they always be in a companion with? The fire of hell. Yeah. They had the punishment in the dunya also when Abraha came. So Abraha did the same thing to these people. And then what they get in the hereafter is the same thing. Yeah. The fire of hell. Allah captures the reality of this world and parallels it with their reality in the next life just through two words. Yeah. Ashabul Uhdud, companions of the fire. How amazing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling. Now, here the addressees are the leaders of the Quraysh. Yeah. Let's come back to the reality time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this our Sahaba were tortured by the leaders of the Quraysh. So now Allah is giving one example from the history, but the moral is going to the leaders of the Quraysh that they did and they were punished like this. And if you do it, you will be punished like them. So as indicated earlier, they were persecuting and oppressing weak Muslims. These ayat actually threatened the arrogant leaders of the Quraysh who had let loose a wave of persecution over Muslims and were harming them in various ways. Habab bin Arad, radiallahu anhu, he was tortured so much. Yeah, he was made to lie down on the hot fire, charcoals. Yeah, and his back was horribly bruised. So he came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he said that Ya Rasulullah, what have we done? Why we get this kind of punishment? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that don't be in a hurry because you are not the first person. People before you, so they were also being punished by these kind of tyrants. So they are warned that if they did not desist from this tyranny and oppression, so they will be thrown in the ditches of hell, which will be fueled by fire and that will never die down. So this is a big threat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to these people that if you don't stop, this is what is going to happen to you. And what are the believers being punished for? So they had not committed any crime or any evil act. Yeah. So their only crime was believing in one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who deserved to be worshipped and praised. That's it. Even today, if you look at many countries, yeah, if you are worshipping only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're not bothering about others, you're not bothering other people, still they think that you are bad people. You are not like one of us. Yes, this is the reality. And this is the test of time for all the believers all the times. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not treat unjustly those who desire to be with him. He is the most mighty and most praiseworthy in all of his statements, actions, legislation, and decrees. As he, subhanahu wa ta'ala, witnesses all things, He has witnessed what the tyrant did to the believers. Not just this one incident, this is just one example. And there are thousands and thousands of examples in the history. What the Pharaohs did, what the Ad and Samud they did. So it's all there. Now this ayah reassures the believers and disbelievers a powerful threat to the tyrants. Allah has been a witness and He is, suffices for a witness. He is sufficient, kafa billahi wakila. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is enough. So now this is like on one hand, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is assuring the believers, appeasing the believers that don't worry, I am on your side. Even if you die, I'll make sure that you get the reward for that because you have done for my sake. On the other hand, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is threat for all the oppressors, all the leaders of the Quraysh. So the narration of the event is completed in a few short ayat, which charge our hearts with a feeling of repugnance towards the terrible crime and its evil perpetrators. But they also invite us to contemplate what lies beyond the event and its important in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what it has aroused of Allah's wrath. Even though this is just one event in the world history, isn't it? But this has got so many lessons in it, you know, that how believers should be believe. Yeah. So this is very, very, very important. One of the thing what they say is when they were throwing the believers, that is Christians at that time, into the fire. Yeah, this is one of the story. It's coming from the Sahaba, that there was one lady, she had a newborn child and they wanted to throw the child first and then the lady, and she was not giving up and she was holding the baby and refused to jump into the pit. And miraculously the baby started talking to the mom, and the baby said that why you are afraid, this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then both of them, they jumped. So many things happen. There are many stories coming from this big story. Yeah. So therefore, these stories, this is for, what is to you and me from this story? What is the moral? What is the ibra? We have to take lesson from this. Is this can happen to you? Look at what is happening in Syria. Look at what is happening in Afghanistan. Look at happening in many, many, many countries to believers. What you have to make sure that your iman should be very strong. Whatever is happening, wherever you are, doesn't matter whatever the type of punishment or the torture or whatever the situation is coming, you have to remain steadfast. You have to have your iman intact. The rest is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The severe the test, the bigger the reward. So therefore, this is our today's moral lesson from this lesson, inshallah. So it is a matter which is not yet completed. It will be concluded on the day of judgment. So whatever these people are doing, look, majority of the Quraysh, they were killed in the Badr. In the war of Badr, majority of them, they were killed. Is that enough? No. That's in the dunya part. They have got two parts, punishment. One part in dunya and the second part on the day of judgment. As the narration of the event concludes, we feel overwhelmed with the magnificence of faith as it exalts the believers and attend its triumph over the hardship, all hardships, and indeed over life itself. We feel the elevation of the believers as they overcome the handicaps of human desires and worldly temptations. So the believers could easily have saved their life by accepting the tyrant terms, but they have won a noble and sublime concept while the fire burned their flesh. Their faith in Allah has triumphed as it was purified by the fire. They will later on have the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the tyrannical enemies will have their retribution. See, if in this situation, circumstance, if somebody put a gun to our head and say that, you are not Muslim anymore. What do you want to do? You got 2, 3 choices. Yeah. One, you can say that no, I will not say. I will say Ashhadu an la ilaha, and you're killed. The second thing, you can, say what they're saying, because Allah knows this is not from your heart, because of the fear of death or fear of whatever, that if you don't say that, they are going to kill the family. So because of the fear, you will say whatever they say. But once the thing has passed, then you can apologize to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Allah, I said, because that was the situation. Allah will forgive. But you have to continue with your iman, even in that situation and in the future also. So there are many choices. It's up to you, yeah, that how far you want to go. But if you want to really die and become a shaheed, Allah is the witness. Yeah, Allah is the witness. He is the, shahid, and you are the mashhud. So don't worry. Then ayat number 5, An-Nari Zatil Bukhud. So An-Nar, the fire of containing the fuel. Now, so An-Nar is the fire, noun, feminine noun, is majroor, and Zat is containing, noun, feminine noun once again, is majroor, and Al-Wakhud, the fuel. Yeah. Anybody who has gone to Saudi Arabia or any Arabian country, you see when you go to the petrol station, you see that, Wakhud, yeah, the fuel. Khutila Ashabul Ukhdud, An-Nari Zatul Wakhud, the pit of fire containing the fuel. Yeah. Now, the word Al-Ukhdud, the ditch, is qualified or described by the word An-Nari Zatil Wakhud, which means that the pit will be filled with fueled fire. We'll go into a little bit, details about this. Now, what happens? See, our human body, when you start burning, there are some chemicals, gases inside. We got fats, we got, our skin. So they all become part of the fire. And then the fire will become more and more and more as they're throwing the number of, human beings. So the fire will become more. So this is what it means, that this fire containing the full of fuel. Yeah. The word fuel fire intended to convey the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made available ample fuel in order to make this fire burn continuously. No one should think that this fire will dwindle once its fuel starts to diminish. Now, this fire, what they did, and they killed 20,000 Christians, yeah, and that was there for some days. So once those people have gone, 20,000 is finished, there were no more human being, there was no fire. Maybe it was there for a month or two, and then it's done. But when these people who are throwing these believers into the pit fire, when they go to the hell, do you think the hellfire will stop? Because there's no fuel? No, there's constant fuel. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kindled his, the hell with constant fuel. There's no limit. It's all unlimited. It's always there. Okay, so what I will do, I'll stop it here, and from the next slide onwards, I'll do it next week. So next week, inshallah, I'll start at 12 o'clock UK time because our time is changing. So now we are going into the British summer time. So therefore, please note, and accordingly, you have to attend the class. Okay, I'll start at 12 o'clock UK time. Okay, British summer time, 12 o'clock. Okay. And also we have got Ramadan starting, so therefore I am continuing the classes in the month of Ramadan, because Ramadan is the month of the Quran. Even though many people, we are trying to read the Quran Majid, recite the Quran Majid, rather recite the Quran Majid, that's good, but the more important thing is, whatever you are reading, you have to understand. Whatever you are understanding, you have to implement. That's the ultimate